Hello and welcome. Which way are the political winds blowing in Maharashtra? The latest edition of the Political Stock Exchange will try and make sense of the voice coming from the ground. We'll give you a sense of where things stand on the political chessboard of Maharashtra on the news track tonight.
Maha poll war locked and loaded. Maha Yuti versus Maha Vikas Aghadi. Which alliance has the edge? What is the verdict on Shinde government? State of war, Maharashtra. Political stock exchange.
The state of war, Maharashtra, is locked and loaded. In less than a month from now, one of the most crucial states will go to vote. In the battle of the alliances, seat sharing has become a key sticking point. The Maha Vikas Aghadi put up a show of strength on Wednesday as it announced a 85-85-85 formula for the three alliance partners, the Congress, the Sena Balasaheb Thackeray faction and the NCP of Sharad Pawar. Hours later, the Uddhav Sena has declared it will contest on more seats. Sources tell India Today that at least 23 seats are a point of contention between the Congress and the Sena UBT.
देखो सेंचुरी के नजदीक हम आए, अब 2-4 सिक्सर मार देंगे, सेंचुरी हो जाएगी ना.
Massive claim by Uddhav Sena amid the big bargaining for seats in Aghadi. Sena UBT MP Sanjay Raut saying his party, which got 85 seats in Aghadi deal, will hit a century, indicating that seat fight inside the Maha Vikas Aghadi is yet to be over. Raut pledged that his party will use all the tricks in the book to contest 100+ seats.
सेंचुरी के नजदीक हम आए, अब 2-4 सिक्सर मार देंगे, सेंचुरी हो जाएगी ना. 85 तक पहुंच गए ना, और अभी तक खेल रुका नहीं है, मैच खत्म नहीं हुए और एक दिन है मैच का, तो जो बचे हुए रन्स है वो निकाल देंगे हम.
While Sena UBT, Congress and Sharad Pawar's NCP have got 85 seats each, the big Aghadi fight is over 23 seats, mainly in Mumbai and Vidarbha. 10 more seats are likely to be reserved for smaller allies.
हमारे को सरकार लाना हमारा दायित्व है और फिर उसके बाद हमारे हाईकमांड उसमें डिसीजन लेंगे.
Amid the raging seat fight, Uddhav's Aditya Thackeray filed nomination from Worli seat.
चैलेंज हमारे राज्य में बेरोजगारी का है, वो हमें दूर करना है.
लेकिन किस तरह से अब महायुति अगर यहाँ पर कोई देती है उम्मीदवार, तो किस तरह से लड़ाई होगी आपको लगता है? या पहले से और टफ होगी या और इजी होगी?
मुझे लगता है महाराष्ट्र, आप देख रहे हो महाराष्ट्र के ऊपर जो सरकार बिठाई है, एक इलीगल सरकार है, उसे दूर करना है. सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज वही है.
आमचं 2.25 वर्षाचं काम हाच आमचा चेहरा आहे.
Meanwhile, the ruling Maha Yuti is holding multiple hurdles over seat sharing. Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis and Ajit Pawar met Home Minister Amit Shah. With less than a month to go before Maharashtra votes, the main alliances are rushing up to wrap up seat deals to avoid friendly fights. With Ritik Bhalekar in Mumbai and Piyush Mishra in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
On this week's edition of the Political Stock Exchange, I'll be taking you through the results of the CSDS Lok Neeti poll for Maharashtra. This is a scientifically conducted poll with a sample size of about 2,607, conducted across 39 assembly constituencies, 139 polling stations between the 21st of September and the 6th of October. Let me take you through the first question I'm taking on the Political Stock Exchange. This is to do with which government is likely to be better. the Maha Vikas Aghadi or the Maha Yuti, across three different criteria. Overall development of the state, 45% of the respondents felt that the Maha Vikas Aghadi would be better for the overall development of the state. That's, remember, the India alliance. The Maha Yuti came in at 41, so a 4% gap there. On the issue of social harmony amongst communities, 41% said Maha Vikas Aghadi alliance, 37% said the Maha Yuti alliance. Providing a stable government was 40% versus 39% for the Maha Yuti. So if you see, there's a gap of 4% on the issue of development, there's a gap of 4% on the issue of harmony, and just 1% on the issue of the stability of that government. And I want to go across to Amitabh Tiwari first, because they haven't asked voting preference, but this gives you a broad sense of what the political preferences for these respondents, which are splattered all across the state, what the political preference is. A 4% gap on two key criteria, 1% favoring the MVA. But remember also the fact that in poll after poll, pre-poll and post-poll in Haryana, the India alliance, the Congress seemed to be ahead. They ultimately lost the election. So what do you make of the gap that emerges with the MVA seeming to have the advantage in the CSDS poll, and the reality that the NDA's ability to bring voters to polling booths in a tight election in Haryana and arguably in Maharashtra as well was far superior, as we've seen recently?
So essentially, if you see, the survey is reflecting largely the mood which was prevalent in the Lok Sabha election.
Correct.
However, if you go on the ground, what you will see is that on the issue of development, and when people compare MVA government with the Maha Yuti government, unfortunately, during the MVA rule, there was 1.5 years of COVID period. And when you compare the work done, people continue to say that the work done, at least on the ground, the visibility of the work ground is higher because largely due to the COVID impact. Now, if you see on the stability of the government, both are having factions of Shiv Sena and NCP. So we have largely similar percentages of support on the stability of the government. On the social harmony aspect, because people have an emotional feeling, and that we saw in the Lok Sabha elections, towards Sharad Pawar and towards Uddhav Thackeray more compared to the Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar faction of the Shiv Sena and NCP, they score more on the social harmony aspect. However, this is still early days because this indicates the situation as of now, and the survey was done, I think, pretty way back sometime during October 6th, I think, is the period. So it may not reflect what is the actual current situation on the ground. It is just an indication of the sentiment of the people and may or may not translate into votes.
Sure, that's a fair point, because ultimately the campaign will start peaking during the Lok Sabha, during the period after Deepavali. So between, say, the 4th of November and the 18th of November is when the campaign will be at its peak. And as we've seen in Haryana, and we saw that during the Lok Sabha elections as well, a lot can change, and it can change very quickly. Let me take you through the caste breakup to give you a sense of where the Maha Vikas Aghadi seems to be in front and where the Maha Yuti seems to be in front. So the Maha Vikas Aghadi is in the lead over the Maha Yuti amongst Muslims, quite naturally, 48% lead. I'm just talking about the lead, gives you a sense of how much the gap between the two alliances is. Amongst Buddhists and Neo-Buddhists, there's a 44% lead. Amongst Adivasis, there's a 30% lead. Amongst poor classes, there's an 11% lead. Amongst the lower classes, there's a 5% lead. The middle class in this poll seems to be more or less equally divided. Amongst the farmers, the Maha Vikas Aghadi is up by about 11%. So that's the gap between the India alliance and the NDA, and the category of voters where the India alliance is in the lead. Let's now come to the Maha Yuti and look at where the Maha Yuti is in the lead over the Maha Vikas Aghadi. So the Maha Yuti leads the Aghadi amongst upper castes by 45%, amongst Marathas by 18%. Interestingly, remember, there's been a big Maratha agitation where Jarange Patel has been pushing hard against the government, particularly Devendra Fadnavis. Despite that, amongst the Marathas, an 18% lead for the Maha Yuti over the Aghadi. Amongst OBCs, a 16% lead. Amongst Dalits, interestingly, because one of the narratives during the Lok Sabha elections was that the Dalits went towards the India alliance. Here, there's a 7% lead in favor of the NDA. And remember, in Haryana as well, the Dalit was split. More went to the Congress, was split quite substantially, with the BJP getting a key chunk of the Dalit votes as well. Amongst the upper caste, the rich voters, the Maha Yuti is ahead of the Aghadi by a massive 17 points. So that's the breakup between where the India alliance in Maharashtra is ahead and where the Aghadi is ahead. Amitabh Tiwari, on the basis of this, the Marathas are significant, a 16% lead amongst the OBCs. That would suggest that the Maha Yuti has an advantage in the numerically strong OBC category, and amongst the Dalit, a 7% lead, not a handicap but a lead. If I look at the vote banks in these two armies, it seems the Maha Yuti has a pretty strong army.
No, essentially, if you look at the vote banks and even look at the data of 2024 Lok Sabha elections, there as well, as per CSDS survey, the Maha Yuti had a slight edge over the MVA amongst the Marathas, as the Maratha agitation is largely centered around Marathwada. And even from Marathwada, a Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde candidate who was a Maratha had won in Lok Sabha elections. So it's not that entirely the community voted against the Maha Yuti. Even amongst Dalits, if you see, what has happened is that this reservation statement of Rahul Gandhi in Washington, that is being played up by VBA. So VBA is doing actually the work of, you can say, Maha Yuti on the ground by spreading this message that Rahul Gandhi, or if the India bloc at all comes to power at the center, it would end reservation. So that has also had some resonance on Dalits on the ground, and here the Dalits are not a homogeneous entity. They are divided between Mahars, Buddhists, Chamars, etc. And they have been voting differently for different parties. Of course, BJP is banking on the OBCs, and OBCs, we see there is a lead, though the Dhangar community now, because of non-inclusion in the ST category, there is some discontent there. So you have OBCs plus a chunk of Dalits and upper caste on Maha Yuti side. You have Marathas, which are largely divided and will vote first for the Maratha community candidate and then will vote for either Maha Yuti or MVA depending upon the strength.
Okay, Tuhin Sinha, what should concern the NDA in Maharashtra is that amongst the poor classes, there's an 11% lead that the Maha Vikas Aghadi, the India alliance, has. And if it becomes about agrarian distress, if it becomes about rich versus poor, Maharashtra versus Gujarat, then having the poor moving away in favor of your opponents, that is always something which is of concern to any political party. What do you make of the numbers I put out so far? Tuhin.
Well, good evening, Rahul. Good evening, everybody. I would take these numbers with a pinch of salt. Sure. One, because they were conducted before the Haryana results. But more importantly, opinion polls have not been able to capture the pulse of the people in the last few months. What gives us the confidence in these elections is, number one, the 96,000 crores social welfare schemes.
But can I just pause you for a second to say that the polls captured what those respondents told them, which is what this poll does as well. What they didn't get right was the conversion of vote share into seats, which is always a subjective issue. But as far as the breakup of different communities or the breakup of different classes is concerned, that the poll cannot be wrong on, because that's a scientifically conducted exercise. You don't know enough about data to say that.
No, I get your point, and that's precisely the reason why we are not really concerned about these polls, because the inference, the actual conversion into votes is completely different. What gives us the confidence at this stage is, number one, the 96,000 crore social welfare schemes unleashed by the government in the last 3 months, balanced with the slew of infrastructure projects, whether it is whether it is in Mumbai, the metro rail, the coastal road, or the Samriddhi highway, balanced with balanced with a whole lot of new projects like the steel plant in Vidar worth 10,000 crores and 76,000 worth crores of Vadhavan Port. So we have delivered in every which way, and that transcends across all sections of society. At this point of time, I don't think, Rahul Gandhi overplaying the Dalit card would really help them, because we saw how Rahul Gandhi treated Mallikarjun ji yesterday. We've all seen pitiable images of him. So I don't think these polls really concern us.
Okay.
And the situation
so Krishna
on the ground has
Hegde
changed
of
a lot.
the Shinde Sena is with us, and I want to run this data set about the performance of the Shinde government and whether performance has improved, remained the same, or worsened across different categories. Roads and bridges under Shinde have improved, say 42% of the respondent, 22% say they've worsened. Drinking water supply has remained the same, say 46% of the respondents. That's the maximum. Not too many people think they've worsened, but the biggest chunk there is of those who say it's remained the same. Law and order has remained the same, say 42% of the respondents. Those who think it's improved is just 3 out of 10. Safety of women has remained the same, say 41% of the respondents. Again, middling assessment. Why this is important is because it gives you a sense of how under the Shinde government, the performance across different criteria has actually fared. Traffic situation has remained the same, say 42% of the respondents. Floods, say 39% of the respondents. If I were to look at that as a school report card, looking at the performance of the Shinde government, it would seem that it's a rather middling performance. The one place where the Janta accepts that things are better are the condition of roads and bridges. Apart from that, drinking water and supply, law and order, safety of women, traffic situation, floods, the maximum chunk of votes is in the middle where voters say it's kind of stayed the same.
First, let me tell you that, you are aware that after Nitin Gadkari ji, anyone who has done great infrastructure work in India and here in Maharashtra is Eknath Shinde ji. And therefore, it's no surprise that infrastructure is at its peak. But I must also tell you that apart from infrastructure, we have gotten so many welfare schemes for the people. We've covered, the Marathas with 10% reservation in the jobs, 10% reservation in education. We've covered the OBC with the creamy layer certificate, limit increase. We've covered the senior citizens with Vayashri Yojana. We've covered the girl child with the Lake Ladki scheme. We've covered women folk of Maharashtra with, Ladli Behna scheme, the Mukhyamantri Ladli Behna scheme. And we've catered to all sections of society, whether it's free transport for people, whether it is free electricity for farmers. And therefore, we've covered all segments. And therefore, we tell you that apart from what Tuhin was saying and what you said, that we've scored with the Marathas, we've scored with the OBC, and we've also scored with the Dalits at between 7 to 17%. What I want to add here is, which is very important, we are having 220 MLAs in the House presently. That is the Mahayuti Sarkar. And each MLA has got a personal pocket of around 20,000 votes. All the MLAs are locally strong. The Lok Sabha election was a different ball game, a false narrative created by the Congress and the Indi Gathbandhan. But here there is no false narrative, as we have seen in the last Haryana elections also.
Okay, so I want to come now to the issues which the opposition would want to highlight in the hope they can capitalize, and I'll take you through where things stand versus the Uddhav government. So the question was, in comparison to the Uddhav government, under the Shinde government, corruption has gone up, say 42% of the respondents, stayed the same, say 37% of the respondents, decreased, say only 11% of the respondents. So corruption is a big issue because voters in the CSDS poll seem to think that corruption has actually increased under the Shinde government. So that's something that is important. Now, the fact also is that there is limited dissatisfaction with the Shinde-led Mahayuti coalition. So when the question was, are you satisfied with the work that the NDA government in Maharashtra is doing? The level of satisfaction, here it is, 20% say fully satisfied, somewhat satisfied say 41%, somewhat dissatisfied say 14%, fully dissatisfied, say 18%. So basically, all you have are 28% who are definite to vote against. 20% are definitely going to vote for the NDA. It's the ones who are in that 41% bracket, the somewhat satisfied, who will decide whether they go upar or they go niche. So the starting point is 28 versus 28% lead for the India alliance, but it's that 41% that then becomes very crucial. Mahesh Tapse, how do you undo what happened in Haryana and ensure, even in Haryana, those who were dissatisfied was more than those who were satisfied? In the end, the Congress lost and the BJP won. And that is what the NDA will hope to do in Maharashtra as well.
Well, good evening, Rahulji and all panelists. As you know, the electorate is divided between the haves and the have-nots. I am thankful that the have-nots have placed their trust on the Maha Vikas Aghadi, the Congress party, the Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena and the Sharad Pawar-led NCP, giving us an opportunity again to serve the last person who's away from development, education, infrastructure and so many other things. Like you showed us this entire demographics of the entire survey which has come. Yes, the people of Maharashtra definitely feel that corruption is a major issue, and why only the people, why only the electorate? You ask any person who's working in Mantralaya, any person who is regularly going to Mantralaya, any contractor, they will also tell you that the corruption is on the highest at this point of time, and hence there may be a sense of dissatisfaction amongst the electorate regarding the corruption issue. But let me tell you, like our panelists said, that when we took over when Uddhav Thackeray took over as chief minister, 1.5 to almost 2 years was gone in battling the COVID pandemic. And even then we could maintain the track record of development, the track record of governance in the state of Maharashtra. And later on what happened in 2022 and subsequently in 23 with the NCP and the Shiv Sena, everybody knows that. But the people of Maharashtra clearly isolate themselves from the happenings in what has happened in Haryana. Haryana, tables could have turned, things could have happened. Somehow the opportunity got misplaced. I'm not the right person to comment. I'm sure Sachinji will be able to enlighten us more on that. But in Maharashtra, the things are absolutely different. Maharashtra does not like any kind of backstepping. And this is not from now. Historically, right from the time of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Maharashtra has never ever given any opportunity to the people who have, dethroned their own ruler, dethroned their own party or backstep their ruler. So this is the kind of thing, and this pulse of Maharashtra is totally different from what it may be in other states in the country.
I want to come now to who people prefer to see as the next chief minister of Maharashtra, and this always throws up interesting insights. Remember also, in Haryana, when this question was asked, people wanted Bhupinder Singh Hooda by far to be the #1 chief minister. It didn't ultimately change anything when it came to the end result. 28% of the respondents say Uddhav Thackeray is the #1 choice for chief minister of Maharashtra. Eknath Shinde comes in at 20%, Devendra Fadnavis comes in at 16%, Ajit Pawar at 3%, Sharad Pawar at 8%. What do you make of this? Amitabh Tiwari, Uddhav Thackeray at 28, 8% lead over Shinde. But Fadnavis at 16, having multiple batsmen in cricket who can win you the match is always a good thing. So if that's the analogy, then they've got two strong players, because you've got Uddhav at 28, nobody from the Congress even features, and Sharad Pawar comes in at only 8. So even if I add those two, it's 36 versus 39 on the other side if I add Shinde, Fadnavis and Ajit Pawar. That's not really the way it actually works, because this is about personal preference, but having one batsman versus multiple options.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, see, if you see in this question, when there are multiple candidates and parties, one would need to look at the alliance scores, which is 36 and 39, as you said. Secondly, in many states, we've seen that the top of the mind recall chief minister preference does not go on and win the state elections. That happens, and that has happened recently in Haryana as well.
It happened in Odisha as well.
Odisha as well. Biju Patnaik was there, and many other states also, if you see. And Uddhav Thackeray is probably getting the benefit of the emotional vote from the supporters, and probably because his party has been split, and now Eknath Shinde has got the election symbol and the party name to keep with him. But here, if you see, the Congress party's CM candidate does not feature in the list. That's not a significantly good news for the Congress, because Congress is rather the leader of the alliance, because it had the best strike rate in the Lok Sabha and won the highest number of seats. So that is somewhere the Congress lacks faces, and if they had significantly visible faces, they could have added to the MVA numbers in the overall CM preference, and that is perhaps lacking in the alliance.
Sure. So let's break this up by communities, and I want to welcome Sanjay Kumar, lead cephalogist at CSDS. It's his team at CSDS Lok Neeti that did this poll. If I break up the choice for Chief Minister, the top three choices amongst different communities, Eknath Shinde, quite naturally, because he's a Maratha himself, leads amongst the Marathas. Devendra Fadnavis is the #1 choice amongst the other upper caste, 40% rooting for him. Amongst the Kunbis, 34% wanting Eknath Shinde versus 30% for Uddhav Thackeray. Amongst the other OBCs, 32% for Shinde versus 25% for Uddhav Thackeray. Amongst the Dalits, 30% for Uddhav Thackeray, so that's the #1 choice amongst the Dalits. Amongst the tribals, again, Uddhav Thackeray comes up as #1 at 31%. Amongst the Muslims, quite naturally, because of the India Alliance having the Congress, the Pawar Sena, Pawar NCP, and the Shinde Sena on the one side, 52% want the India Alliance. Amongst the Buddhists, again, it's Uddhav Thackeray who leads. If I were to get you to give us a high-level summary of the CSDS Lok Neeti pre-poll study for Maharashtra, what would you tell our viewers? What are your 2 or 3 big takeaways? Who do you think seems to be stronger in the court of public opinion ahead of the elections? And remember, this happens before the poll really gets into its climax zone. So it's happened with some distance from the 20th of November. But all that being said, who do you think has the advantage in your poll? Sanjay Kumar.
Very difficult to say from the poll, because if you look at the poll findings on various aspects, if we ask the question about how do you rate the performance of state government, 20% people are very satisfied and 18% people are very dissatisfied. If you look at the lead of the two alliances among different communities, you can see that it seems to be evenly poised. So from whichever angle I look at the data, I do get a sense that even before the dates were announced, looks like that the two alliances are evenly poised. Very difficult at this moment to say from the data that which party is ahead of the other.
You know, that's almost feeling like what's happening in the United States, where most of the polls are just showing it as a very tight race with Donald Trump slightly in front in the margin of error. Is that pollsters just hedging post the Lok Sabha election and post Haryana की 2 बार गलती होगी, अब risk लेना ही नहीं है. Bolo TC, too close to call, and say don't know, can't say. Is that just a hedging maneuver, Sanjay Kumar?
No, I don't think, because see, this is a pre-poll survey. I'm not saying that this is the kind of estimate all the pollsters are going to give if they do an exit poll for Maharashtra. I think if the poll clearly indicates a party winning election or leading the poll, I think pollster would have the courage to say that. If the pollsters looked at whether they got it right or wrong, that's a different story. But look at in Haryana, most of the pollsters believe that, or got from the ground, that it is Congress which is leading the election. So they went ahead and said it is Congress which is leading the election. They all went wrong. That's a separate story. I'm not saying that I am being very, very careful, and that is why I'm not opening I'm not trying to tell the viewers that which party is leading and which party is trailing, because later on I would be judged based on what I have said today. But this is the situation on the ground.
This is the genuine situation on the ground, you're saying. You're saying you're not being careful. This is actually the situation. So it's not like you're not wanting to play shots. The pitch is a dicey, tricky pitch, and therefore not playing shots is the smarter strategy, which is the position he's taking, which is totally understood.
Just one line. I'm always careful. I think pollsters are always careful. And careful, you drive very carefully on the road.
I agree. And this is Diwali season. This is not Team Patti. You're not supposed to play blind. You're supposed to be careful, especially if you're an academic and a social scientist. This is not where you keep going blind. That's not the way to do polling, and that's not something I believe in at all. Sachin Sawant from the Congress is with us. Now, Sachin, the problem from the Congress's perspective, if I look at this data, is that once again you seem like the weak link. Now that is ironical because it's true in terms of personality, but as the Lok Sabha data showed, in the end when it came to maximum seats, the Congress was #1. But this is really the quandary in Maharashtra, where you simply don't have a personality. Now if I think of it as an IPL marquee player in some franchise, you don't have your Kohli, your Rohit Sharma, your Hardik Pandya, which can add to the strength on the basis of personality of the India Alliance franchise.
No, I think MVA is fighting unitedly, so that does not mean
Sir,
that
batsman bhi chahiye hota hai run marne ke liye jo jita sakta hai.
That is okay. See, the thing is, our players are national players also. Rahul Gandhi ji also will come for campaign. Priyanka Gandhi ji will come. Sonia Gandhi ji will come. Kharge Saab will also come. And apart from that, we have our leaders over here, and they have a strong community base behind them as well. See, when we are talking about CM phase. Definitely the natural choice is Uddhav Thackeray ji emerging from the people's mind because he was heading the MVA government.
No, but then you haven't announced him either. Okay, so let me pause you there to say if you're calling him the natural choice, if he leads over everyone else by far. No, but this is important. You make an important point because Sharad Pawar is at 8%, Uddhav Thackeray at 28%. That's at least 3x plus, 3.5 times Sharad Pawar. That means you really have nobody in the Congress. If you were to pitch for Uddhav Thackeray, you may have a better chance, arguably.
The thing is, let me complete, Rahul. What I wanted to say is that when MV was in power, Uddhav Thackeray was leading that MBA, our entire, three parties.
So you're saying his name recall is higher.
That kind of impression.
I take that point that his name recall is higher because he was leading the coalition.
Definitely, we have a shared goal to dislodge this government, which is completely unethical and corrupt, and that is what we believe in. And people
do you accept that Haryana has actually made things better for the Congress in Maharashtra because you're now more, you're flying less, you're more willing to listen, more willing to accommodate? So that's been the big difference. The Congress would have been trying to get too big for its boots if Haryana hadn't happened. Now the allies are actually liking this new chastened Congress.
We would have liked if Haryana, the results would have been, would be different. But the thing is, as far as Congress party in Maharashtra is concerned, we have become a little more alert now. We don't want to give any foothold to Bharatiya Janata Party or Maha Yuti.
Okay, I want to come to the most striking issues. And I want Sanjay Kumar to explain how this is different from what we typically get to see, because unemployment comes in at 24%, inflation at 22%, lack of development at 9%, agriculture, farmers' issues at 8%. That, at least from what I remember, is not the way it usually is. That's farmer issues coming in really high up, number 4th issue. Infrastructure issues in Maharashtra is a very industrial, urban state, so 7% say infrastructure issues, women's safety say 5%, reservations say 4%. Remember, Jarangi Patil has been running a big campaign, but that's really just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the 7th most important issue. Poverty at 4%, corruption at 3%. So, Sanjay Kumar, unemployment, inflation, does this indicate anything really? Because unemployment, inflation in a poll are really cookie-cutter issues which really show up everywhere. So, what is your reading of the most striking issues in the Maharashtra elections?
No, you're right, Rahul, that whenever you do a poll, whether it is at the time of election or not at the time of election, and if you ask a question, what is the biggest problem or which is the biggest problem, unemployment comes up at the top and followed by price rise. This is far less compared to what we have found in other states. Recently in Haryana, 48% people said unemployment is on the rise and unemployment is the biggest problem. But we know that despite unemployment being biggest problem, as perceived by the same voters, they voted in favor of BJP in much bigger numbers compared to Congress. So that's not an indication that the ruling coalition seems to be weak. That is an indication that, yes, this is a problem on the ground. Whether you win election or you lose election, you cannot ignore this fact that these are the problems on the ground. I think the reservation issue is going to be one of the big issues. The way but it would depend upon the way political parties are going to campaign.
Okay, let me give the data. I haven't given the data on reservation just yet, so let me do that now. First, let's take the opinion on the character leading the reservation agitation, Manoj Jarangi Patil. Have you heard of him? 70% say yes. Jarangi Patil and his supporters should not contest is the view of 35% of the respondents. Jarangi Patil and his supporters should contest is the view of 40% of the respondents. 25% say they have no opinion. So they've heard of him and they're largely of the view, or they're more of the view that he should not contest. What do you think of the method in which reservation is being demanded? 38% say the movement and strikes are the right way of making these demands. 28% say they should be made in a different way. 34% seem to have no opinion. The law providing 100% reservation for Marathas, 10% reservation for Marathas, awareness about the law providing 10% reservation for Marathas in educational institutes and government jobs, know about the law, say 42% of the overall. I'm not looking just at the Marathas, I'm looking at overall. 42% say they know about it, 29% say they don't know about it, not sure say 18%, no response say 11%. Now the complication here, Amitabh Tiwari, is that the reservation issue can cut in different ways. Jarange Patil's been targeting Devendra Fadnavis, he avoids targeting Eknath Shinde. Fadnavis suggests he's propped up by the likes of Sharad Pawar. So while this is an important issue, it's the number 7 most important issue, but we can't be sure about how the Maratha issue reservation will cut amongst Marathas and amongst the others. What we can see in this poll is amongst the Marathas, the Maha Yuti has a 18% lead over the Aghadi.
Yeah, essentially, so see, at the state level, it is coming as the 6th or the 7th biggest issue.
Correct.
It is largely an issue focused around Marathwada, I feel. In Vidarbha, you already have Kunbis who are included in the OBC category. This is a lesser issue in Western Maharashtra, Thane, Konkan, Mumbai, and even North Maharashtra. This issue largely resonates in Marathwada. Now, a section of the Maratha people who are demanding reservation and backing it want Jarange Patil to contest the elections because Marathwada has 46 seats and emerge as a kingmaker, not be dependent upon MVA to win the elections and do the necessary legislation around reservation. So that is a call which he has to take. I think he has been giving some sort of conflicting statements also, so he's not sure whether he's going to contest on the seats or not. So that is something we will have to watch out for. But the issue is largely centered around one region and it's not a pan-state issue, and that is visible in your number wherein the Maratha community is voting in larger numbers. The Mahayuti has a lead because it is pocketing the votes of the Maratha community in other regions, and it has one CM and one deputy CM coming from the Maratha community.
Okay, let's spend a moment looking at where the candidates have been declared and what we can figure out from seat allocation so far. So out of the 62 seats of Vidarbha, the BJP is declared 23 seats, the Shiv Sena 6 seats, the NCP 5, in the Shinde Sena, that is 6. In Western Maharashtra, 70 seats, 16 for the BJP, 12 for the NCP, 6 for the Shinde Sena. In Marathwada, 46 seats, that's the total number of seats. The BJP is declared 16, the Shinde Sena 10, NCP 6. North Maharashtra, the BJP is declared 9, 8 for the Shinde Sena, 11 for the NCP. Amitabh Tiwari, if I look at how many seats have been declared where, it would look like the Maha Yuti has the advantage in a T20 style single phase, very crunched election. Does early seat allocation make a material difference, or do you think it's really up to the voter? Post analysis may happen, but it actually doesn't make any real difference.
So it gives the candidates a first mover advantage because if you recall, there are now 3 probable aspirants from each alliance on each seat. So it gives the time to the candidate who is announced to manage some sort of a discontent or rebellion within the party as well as within the alliance partners. Because transfer of votes from a Shiv Sena NCP to BJP and vice versa, or from a NCP Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray to Congress and vice versa, is going to be very critical. If you see the number of seats which have been announced, clearly the BJP is taking the lead in Vidarbha. It is based on regional strengths. The BJP and Sena in Mumbai and Thane Konkan, the BJP and Sena again in Marathwada, and the BJP and NCP in Western Maharashtra. So it's based on regional strength where the Mahayuti has announced candidates. The Shiv Sena also has gone ahead and announced candidates, and we are yet to see NCP, SP and Congress candidates. Interestingly, Shiv Sena has announced candidates on 15 seats, UBT, which they have never won in the last 3 elections, and that is probably the bone of contention in the MVA. The seat sharing is still stuck, and that is not creating a good perception of the alliance on the ground.
Okay, I want to come now to what are your key concerns after 5 years. And when this question was asked, inflation has gone up, say 74%, decreased, say 7%, remained the same, say 15%. Corruption has gone up, say 51% of the respondents, 15% say it's come down, 27% say it's remained the same. Establishment of new industries has increased, say 27%, decreased, say 30%, 28% say remained the same. Employment opportunities increased, say 23%, decreased, say 41%, remained the same, say 28%. Now, Tuhin Sinha, if I look at this as an aggregate, you know, the one thing that emerges as we conclude is that it's been a very middling government. It's not been a high performer government. You know, for example, in Uttar Pradesh before the 2022 elections, the UP government of the BJP of Yogi Adityanath was seen as a high performer government. This Maharashtra model, because of the fact that, you know, there have also been changes, Eknath Shinde, Devendra Fadnavis taking a backseat, of all of that together, you know, it's been a very mixed track record. It's not like the government has been smashing every ball out of the park and that voters are delighted with your performance. It's like, theek hai, it's like an average government.
In reality, Rahul, there have been two governments in the last 5 years, and I think there is a big disparity in the performance of the Aghadi vis-a-vis the Maha Yuti. So it is, if you look at it, all the infrastructure projects that were stalled during the Aghadi government eventually took off now. And if they had taken off beforehand, at least the metro rail projects would have been completed by the time, you know, Uddhav Thackeray left office. So that is the difference. We lost 2.5 years. So I don't know, you know, that is why I take these numbers with a pinch of salt, because the perception on the ground is completely different. It is we who have delivered vis-a-vis a stay-at-home CM who never went to office, vis-a-vis a CM, because of his indolence, you know, businesses would go away from Maharashtra to Karnataka and to other state governments.
So, you know, some of our viewers may wonder, ye phir poll kyun kar rahe hain? You know, when the polls for Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and the Lok Sabha were not exact and they were off. Here's what I wish to say to that. Everybody has an opinion on what's happening, who's winning, who's losing, who's aage, who's piche. It's always been my very firm belief that, you know, polling is the best way of determining public opinion. You know, the conversion of vote share into seats may not be accurate in a country as complex as ours, but when you come to just trying to understand what the issues are, which communities are, you know, favoring whom and against whom, you know, polling is genuinely the best way. Even if a reporter goes out, even if I go out, anybody else goes out, speaks to a few people, you come back with a very limited sample and your responses are biased basis who you speak. When people like Sanjay Kumar, Amitabh Tiwari and their teams go out, speak to people, they're speaking to a far bigger corpus of voters, the aggregate of which gives you a far truer sense of what is happening. So yes, they may have suffered some setbacks in India and internationally, but net-net, scientifically conducted, non-biased, rigorous polling of the kind that we tend to favor is really genuinely the best way of determining what direction the political winds are blowing in. Beyond that, everybody is a free citizen and everybody can have their opinion. But that's really where we come out on this question. So I want to thank Sanjay Kumar and his team for that poll and for the effort that they made. Amitabh Tiwari for your insights, and to all our political guests for joining us. Thank you so much. A day after she filed her nomination for the Wayanad Lok Sabha by-poll, a political storm erupted over Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and her husband Robert Vadra's assets. Priyanka's poll affidavit reveals that she and her husband have 80 crore rupees of tax notices pending. The BJP has hit out, calling this tax chori.
Big row over Congress's Wayanad candidate Priyanka Gandhi's asset declaration. While filing nomination, Priyanka showed she and her husband Robert Vadra have combined movable and immovable assets worth 77.55 crore rupees. Priyanka herself worth 12 crore rupees and Robert Vadra 66 crore rupees. But crucially, Priyanka Gandhi admitted that she, along with her husband, has a whopping 80 crore rupees in pending tax dues, which is even bigger than her combined assets with husband Robert Vadra. As per Priyanka's poll affidavit, she has 4.12 crore rupees pending in dues for the assessment year 2016-17, 3.5 crore pending for year 2017-18, 2.39 crore for the year 2018-19. heaviest tax due of 24.16 crore rupees is pending for the year 2019-20 and 1 crore pending for the year 2020-21. And this has stoked massive controversy with BJP training guns on Priyanka for tax evasion, calling it Gandhi family's tax theft. The BJP attacked Robert Vadra, accusing him of hiding his wealth, claiming his declared assets are much lower than his actual assets.
रॉबर्ट वाड्रा की जो डिक्लेयर्ड नेटवर्थ है, डिक्लेयर्ड शब्द का प्रयोग इसलिए कर रहा हूं, हर भारतीय जानता है सबसे बड़ा भ्रष्टाचारी कोई है, लूट खसोट करने वाला कोई है तो वो गांधी परिवार है, जिनके 3 सदस्य भ्रष्टाचार के आरोप में बेल पे बाहर हैं, सोनिया गांधी, राहुल गांधी और रॉबर्ट वाड्रा। और रॉबर्ट वाड्रा की जो डिक्लेयर्ड नेटवर्थ है वो कम है, लेकिन इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट जो डिमांड कर रहा है वो ज्यादा है।
Priyanka's husband hit back at the BJP, calling it nothing but a bid to divert from real issues.
जो आरोप लगेंगे या जो भी जोड़ा जाएगा ये सारा तो चलता रहेगा, क्योंकि ये राजनीति है। 10-11 साल हो गए इनके यहाँ राजनीति में, यहाँ मतलब देश में, और जहाँ भी उनको लगा कि मेरा नाम बेबुनियाद इल्जाम लगाना है पर वो लगाते हैं, पर उसमें कोई भी आरोप प्रूफ नहीं होता है। जब भी कोई भी उन्होंने सवाल पूछे तो उसका जवाब मैंने सारा दिया, चाहे ईडी हो या इनकम टैक्स हो या किसी का भी, कोई भी एजेंसी का कोई भी नोटिस आता है उसको पूरा जवाब दिया जाता है, और कोई भी गलत चीज़ नहीं हुई है। आप कितनी भी एजेंसियां आ जाए, उनके जितने भी सवाल हैं उसका जवाब देने के लिए मैं राजी हूँ।
Will pending tax dues of Priyanka Gandhi and Robert Vadra impact Congress fortunes in Wayanad? Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the news track tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye and good night.